Last week, we talked about the basics of how trauma and wounds happen. If you have not watched that video yet, I would recommend you to go watch it first, otherwise you will be missing a lot of context for this one. It would be like watching a movie that already started. The link is in the description below. We talked about what wounding, healed, and healing is, but we didn't talk about how the healing process happens, or in simple words, how to heal. So let's get right into it. Hi, I'm Ivan. I've been a facilitator of ceremony for over 10 years, and in last week's video we used the process of wounding as a baseline to understand how the process of healing happens. So let's recap that first. I asked a simple question. If wounding happens as a consequence of an emotional need not being met, also known as trauma, then how do you think healing happens? Well, if you try to guess this time, you probably got it right, which is by meeting the unmet need. And that can happen in two ways. First, to meet the need by the person who caused the trauma. That means that the person that you were seeking the love from gives it to you exactly in the form in which you needed it. Remember that the word love is too generic here. It has to be feeling loved when. Feeling loved when you're proud of me. Feeling loved when you touch me. Feeling loved when you pay attention to me. Feeling loved when you understand me when I do something wrong instead of punishing me. An example of this first point could be that you felt that you didn't matter to your dad, and then he realizes this at some point or heals it within himself and makes you feel that you actually do matter to him. To have your unmet needs be met by the person who caused the trauma is the easiest and the hardest way. It is the easiest because if that person manages to give you what you need, that is the person that you are seeking it from, and then you heal. But at the same time, it's the hardest because it is usually unavailable, otherwise the trauma probably wouldn't have happened to start with. It is very rare that a parent will end up giving to the child something that they didn't first that wasn't available to them, because in order for that to happen, the parent needs to do healing work enough to realize the ways in which they have traumatized their children so that they can come back to them and acknowledge the ways in which they have traumatized them. Acknowledgement of what you have done to a person is one of the essential elements to give to that person if you want to help them heal from it. We will talk a little bit later about this. So that was the first way, but there must be some other way of meeting the unmet need that is not through the person that caused the trauma. The idea that only that person can help us heal always felt untrue to me, like it is some sort of flawed design. Otherwise, our healing would completely depend on that person, and something in me told me that that just simply couldn't be the case, that there must be some other way. What if that person is unavailable, or they don't talk to you, or that person doesn't have the ability or the capacity to meet your need, which, by the way, is the most probable thing? Or what if they are dead? Is that it then? Are we wounded forever? No, it can't be. There must be some other way. And fortunately, there is. I consider this, by far, the most important skill that we must learn if we want to take sovereignty over our healing. And that skill is to learn, second, self-validation, to meet the needs that should have been met by somebody else all by yourself. This is much harder to do at first in comparison to the first option. It is a skill that takes time and effort to learn and master. But once it's done, it is the most effective tool for self-healing that I have encountered. It is hard to do at first because the wounded part of you is used to seeking that validation externally from the person who caused the wound, because there is a belief that the only way in which the unmet need can be met is through them. But that is just a belief. However, contrary to that belief, that validation can also come directly from yourself. It works exactly that way. It doesn't matter where it comes from as long as you get it. Another way of saying that is, if you as a child needed a specific form of love that you didn't get from your parents, your inner wounded child can get that love from your inner healed parent, which is a healed version of you caring for your wounded inner child. These two are different parts of you that are alive in you at all times. Every part of you that has an unmet need stays with you and follows you everywhere as one of your many wounded inner children. Remember, we called this a wound or an empty emotional space, but who was the recipient of that wound? It wasn't you right now watching this video. It was a version of you in the past. So that empty space represents the wound of you at that age, and because you continue to carry it still till this moment, what you are really carrying is the pain that that child received. And that is what we call the wounded inner child. It is the pain that child received that you continue to carry. And it is very much alive in you at all times, following you everywhere, asking constantly for that thing that it didn't get. And to make things a little bit more complex, there isn't just one wounded inner child. As I already started touching on this topic, there are as many wounded inner children as wounds that you carry since the moment that you were a kid. On the other hand, there is a part of you that I call the inner healed parent. That is the part of you that knows exactly how that child feels, since it was you who experienced it, and therefore also knows exactly what that child needs and has the capacity to give it to them. Now that last part is key, because many people know what the child needs but do not have the capacity to give it to them. To find our connection with our inner healed parent can be tricky, and that is because we tend to talk to our inner wounded child in the same way in which our parents used to talk to us when we were that child. So why do we do that? Well, because through our parents, that's what we learn on how to be treated, that's what we learn of what we deserve, and that's what we learn about what is normal. If our parents said, "You are good for nothing," then we think, "I am good for nothing." And that is exactly your inner parent telling your inner child, "You are good for nothing." That is not our healed inner parent. Our healed inner parent is the part of ourselves that knows and embodies the following statement. Please try to follow it with your full attention, as it is very important. I will go slow. All the needs that were not met by my parents are not because I am not worthy of their love. It is because they don't have access to it. They don't have access to it because they have not done their own healing in those specific places. They made me believe I wasn't worthy of their love, and I believed it because a child sees the word of their parents as a word of truth. I know now that isn't true. The word of my parents can come from a place of wounding too, like the word of any other person. I know that any words that came to me from them that didn't meet my needs weren't the words of truth. Those were the words of wounding. The truth is, I am worthy of love, because I am. Being is enough. I know I am worthy of love, because if I wouldn't be born exactly the way I am, but with a different set of parents who would have met my needs, I would have always believed it. My capacity to feel worthy of love depends on how good my parents are at making me believe it. If they are good at it, I will feel worthy. If they are not, I will not feel worthy. But at the end, my belief of my own worthiness has everything to do with their capacity to make me feel it and nothing to do with my true worthiness. To embody that kind of wisdom can take time. Now, reading it once can be the spark that kickstarts the process of that embodiment. An inner parent that knows this and lets their inner child know that they have always been worthy of the love that they didn't get, and that they didn't get it because of the incapacity of their parents to give it to them and not because of who the child is, that is what I call an inner healed parent. This inner healed parent will always have the capacity to heal the different wounded inner children that live within that show up in different situations. So why is self-validation the most important healing tool? Well, because once you learn it, your healing will be completely independent of the person that caused the wound. Another way of saying this is that before this tool, not all of your wounds had the capacity to heal because many of them depended on a person that is not available anymore, who you don't talk anymore, who doesn't have the capacity to give you what you need, or who is dead. But with this tool, each one of your wounds has now the capacity to heal. Hey, I'm recording this after the video was already finished, but I wanted to give you a little gift. It is a summary of everything that you just watched, nicely put together in a beautiful PDF, so that you can take a look at it anytime that you need to refresh your memory. This will give you access to the PDF of this and all my other videos. The link is in the description below. So how do we learn this tool? Well, that is exactly what our video next week will be all about. I am sorry that I'm not giving it to you now, but I just don't want this video to get too long. So why don't we just meet again next week? As always, thank you for listening and for your interest in healing. Before you leave, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications, as this channel just started and in these initial stages that helps out a lot. And I'll see you in next week's video. Click on the left square to watch another video I made on a related topic. All my content is free. If you appreciate it and wish to assist me to continue releasing this kind of content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. You can also follow me on my socials and subscribe to this channel.